where you are and whatever skills you have, use that, get resourceful. Whatever you have with you is what you're going to use to start your passion project and work around those constraints.
What's going on? You're listening to episode 75 of the Perspective Podcast, and I'm your host, Scotty.D.Russell of Perspective Collective. This show is about carving out time to build something for yourself. I want to share what is and isn't working for me, along with sharing my guest point of view. And this platform also allows me to cast the spotlight on those creating big waves in the community through interviews and a weekly dose of inspiration in the outro of every show. Quick announcement, if you happen to be from Iowa or will be in the Cedar Rapids area May 17th through 18th, I want you to know that I'll be speaking at a big conference called EntreFest, and I'll be giving a revised version of my 3 life lessons learned from loving pizza talk. Oh yeah, the keynote speaker will be Scott Belsky. You may know him as the co-creator of Behance, 99U, and author of some pretty well-known creative books. So if you're interested and you're around the area, you can buy your tickets at entrefest.com. All right, so do you struggle creating and promoting work that puts a pep in your step? Do you want to learn how to create an engaging side project that people can't resist sharing? I get it, this shit can be difficult and stressful. It's easy to overthink and take the path that you think people want to see. However, creating to please others is a slippery slope that can suffocate the joy of what it feels like to create work that lights you up and resonates with the right people. What makes you different and what interests you could lead to a gold mine of work that generates a massive breakthrough in your creative career. Instead of trying to fit in, why not try to stand out by being you? Let's cue today's guest, which is Lauren Hom of Hom Sweet Hom. Lauren's built quite the reputation of combining her lettering, illustration, unique ideas, and quirky sense of humor into her side projects that seem to take over the internet and go viral. I feel she's cracked the code for creating work worth sharing while having the business chops to market herself and her projects. With her weekly homework prompts on Instagram, she helps thousands of people to create work that stands out amongst the noise. Not only that, but she has a Passion to Paid course which dives deep into helping people like you create and market a side project that interests you, and it's currently taking place as we speak. In today's episode, Lauren dishes out the secrets to what makes an interesting side project, practical tips for making time to make shit happen, how to create shareable work with the resources you currently have, and she also shares her favorite kind of bread, pizza, and so much more. You can find the show notes to this episode containing Lauren's rad work and all the resources we chat about at perspective-collective.com/75. If you think someone can find value in this episode, please give it a share on social media. It's because of your word of mouth that the show keeps on growing, and you know I love you for it. And finally, if you catch some inspiration from the show, create some work and tag me on Instagram. I'll give it a share where I post each week's episode artwork at Perspective Podcast. Let's get into the show. I have to know, do you schedule 2 hours in a day to update your stories?
You know what?
Do you have to schedule that in your day?
So that's one thing that I've been trying to manage better this year is business growing pains. It's a good problem to have, obviously, when audience grows, making courses, still doing freelance work, speaking more, traveling, but lots of balls to juggle per se. And so I actually hired a friend to help me manage the homework aspect of my Instagram. So I will basically I gave her some templates to post into the stories. And then we have a saved folder in my Instagram where I'll save my favorites and then she'll post them for me. So any of the homework stories she's taking care of. So I've automated that and it's been super helpful. Everything else, because I'm in a launch right now, of course, I'm posting a shit ton of stories. And that's me. That's me in my bathrobe, sitting in bed, being like this.
Yeah.
But yes, I have ramped up the story game lately because I don't post super often. I don't know how often do you post? Do you post every day, every couple days?
Minimum weekly, just for like podcasts, and repurposing stuff. And then just because I've posted so much digital stuff, I force myself to get, into the digital world so I don't get left behind. I'll maybe do like a throwback Thursday of just like an older analog piece. And I don't know, more active on like the Perspective Podcast Instagram page to kind of like feature other people who channel shit from the podcast. So that's fun too. But main account, just I'd say twice, maybe 3 times a week. It's too hard. There's so much going on in life. Like you know.
Yeah, and I think it's an unfair pressure for designers to put that on themselves to be like, I have to post every day or I'm not going to make it as a designer. Like that's definitely not true. And my mentor actually gave me some really good advice because I was stressing out about that maybe like a year ago. And she was like, are you posting because you have something valuable to say and contribute to the world? Or are you posting to make noise and like just try to get someone's attention? And it's not really, value is in business, you'll hear this over and over again, but like value at the core of everything you do. And that really like took the pressure off me. I was like, oh wait, like 2 really valuable posts a week are much better than 7 like, hey, like look at me kind of posts.
And quantity doesn't always, lead to the best results either. I heard Instagram algorithms can kind of knock you down with certain things too. I don't know the whole algorithm thing. That thing's a mind fuck as well, but.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny because every time the algorithm changes, troves of designers and photographers and just any visual creatives are like, brah, rah, rah, rah. And so that's been something I've been trying to work on in the last, I think, year or two where I'm like, okay, like if Instagram disappeared tomorrow or Facebook disappeared tomorrow, what would I do? Like, where would my people find me? And that was something that like, again, like my mentor was like, you own the content on social media, but you don't own the platform. And as much as we complain about, oh, like fuck Instagram for changing the algorithm, like, and everyone's trying to like crack it, it's their business. Like we signed up for it.
You're living on rented land.
Absolutely.
Funnel everyone to your site and siphon off things, spread it out. So yeah, that's been huge for me too.
Yeah, no, I was going to say like you do a really good job of that. And I think that's something that like, obviously it's a little bit like when someone's just getting on Instagram, like when I was first getting on Instagram, I didn't understand that. Mm-hmm. And I think as I've progressed, I was like, okay, like, yeah, how do you, it's like with anything, like investing, like diversify. But it just makes more sense, put your eggs in multiple baskets.
Definitely. Well, we've kind of already started the podcast. Usually I have this like intro and stuff, but I'm cool with this.
It's a pretty heavy intro.
Yeah, I like it. So we don't even need an intro. Well, I guess for those of you who don't know and have been living under a rock, please give us a brief Wikipedia page summary about yourself.
Ooh, Wikipedia page summary. Well, my name is Lauren Hom, and I am a hand lettering artist based in Detroit, Michigan. Prior to that, I was based in Brooklyn, New York. And then before that, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. And I got my start in marketing. I went to the School of Visual Arts and got my BFA in creative advertising, worked for about 9 months in the advertising world and burnt out at the ripe age of 23, which was fun. And luckily, I mean, this is kind of my backstory, but what was my like life raft, I would say, is the fact that I had started a passion project while I was a student. My senior year of school, I had started a Tumblr blog of all things, like 21 years old, not really sure what I was doing, but started working on this passion project called Daily Dishonesty, and it blew up on the internet unbeknownst. Like I couldn't have anticipated that. There was really, no plan for that. And it got turned into a book and I got all this freelance work. And so as I was, finding this success with my passion project, my full-time job was just taking a big old shit on me. And it
Gross.
just, I'm glad that I will interlude. I'm glad that you have like a bathroom sense of humor to you. I saw you comment, tag your wife in my Sassy and Guest post. Yep. Which is, I knew we would get along.
At the day job, sorry to interview on this.
It's all good.
I kind of run some of the interview questions with people, and the main question I ask is, how do you feel about poop jokes? Because that literally cuts through the tension, and it lets them know if this is like the right person for the team. So definitely, all about the poop life.
Yes, absolutely. When nature calls, nature calls. But where was that? Oh, so freelancing was one of those things that I had seen, like, my idols like Jessica Hish, John Contino, like Dan Casaro, all these people who were doing kind of these type type-based work, but they were doing most of that freelance. And I was like, okay, it's possible, but hey, I'm 23, like I got to put in my dues. Let's try this advertising thing out. And I thought that maybe like 5 years down the road, maybe I could give it a shot. But 9 months into the job, the stars just kind of aligned, where I was really unhappy at my full-time job and just like really throwing myself into my passion projects and my lettering, and decided to make the jump. I figured that being out of a job at 23 was really no different than being out of a job at 24 or 25. And if it didn't work out, I could just jump back into the junior designer scene and start back up.
So where did the Daily Dishonesty project come from? Because I remember like early in the Instagram days for me, I remember Brooke from Good Type doing a little contest for it as well.
Oh my gosh, I know. Oh, we definitely have to talk about Good Type. So it started October 2012, which is nuts because that's over 5 years ago. And I was just drinking with my roommate, to be honest, in our dorm room. And we had just started senior year, and we were talking about all of the stuff that we wanted to accomplish that year. Like, big talkers, big dreamers. We were talking about art school, but then also, we wanted to start a baking blog together. I was really into Bikram yoga at the time. So hot yoga.
Not for me.
Yeah. And everyone knows like that one person who loves Bikram yoga.
Yeah, not me. I don't like hot rooms. I feel like I would suffocate, and I can barely stretch. So not for me.
I think that hot yoga is good for people who like to multitask, because you get this intense workout. It's 90 minutes, which is longer than most people work out.
Yeah.
And then it's like a workout, a stretch, and like you're in a sauna at the same time. So it's just like getting a lot of exercise in one little dose. My boyfriend doesn't. And he actually just got back from hot yoga, and he's a big fan.
I commend him.
I do it every now and then, and it feels good, but I can never get myself there. It's just too painful. But we were talking, about these grandiose plans, and, 1 glass of wine, 2 glasses of wine, 3 glasses of wine into this conversation, we looked at each other and just kind of had this like moment where we were like, we're such bullshitters. There's no way any of this is going to happen. And I had this little light bulb moment where I was like, oh shit, like I lie about stuff like this all the time. Like I'm not like lying about like my social security number, like big stuff. I'm just doing these little, innocent little quips of like, I'll be there in 5 minutes when you haven't actually left the house, or like, I'm not drinking tonight when, a little coercion from your friends and you're a goner. And so I ran to my room and just, after, I don't know how I ended up jotting down ideas after drinking, but I, on a little like Post-it note, jotted down like 10 or 20 of these little white lies that I could think of that were kind of prevalent in my own life and my friends' lives. And it just like kept pouring out. And I had this list of basically content. And I was like, this has to be like a blog, or like, because I was in ad school, I think I was primed already to think in like a campaign kind of sense. And so I wanted to package it up neatly into a blog. I've always been good with wordplay. I don't know where exactly that comes from. So Daily Dishonesty was like the name. I was like, ooh, that's sticky. Like, I like that.
Alliterations and stuff.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Alliterations and rhymes, like
puns. That's why we're already good friends. That's all the things I love.
They're like such simple mechanisms, but they do a lot for you. And so I ended up, I didn't really have any lettering experience. I had just admired lettering at that point, and I had taken one typography class and then one communication design class in school so far, but didn't really have any, formal type training. So I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And I just started lettering these phrases, and I used what I had in my dorm room. I had a pad of graph paper, a pencil, a Sharpie, nothing fancy. I didn't even have a scanner, so I would just take a photo with my phone and text it to or email it to myself.
Been there.
Oh yeah. And for web, it's kind of okay.
Yep.
It's not the worst. And I had thought about it too. I thought I could just type them out at first, and I was like, no, that doesn't quite feel like right for this, because they're such personal little lies. And it really just started as a way for me to practice hand lettering and kind of dabble, but to also make this kind of like fun inside joke for me and my friends, and put it on Tumblr. And within a month, it had blown up. It started with like 10,000 followers and 20 and then 30, and then it just kept going. And I was still in school at the time, and I couldn't believe it. I had never I was on Behance. I had my personal portfolio, but I had never had this much recognition for my work. I think I had won a couple awards in school, but it seemed to have spread, outside of the design community and just like into the general like internet sphere, which was something I had never experienced before. But I was getting all these nice messages and requests to buy posters, and are you available for freelance work? And like, I'm 20 years old or 21 years old, not knowing how to handle this. I had dabbled in freelance, and so I just pretty much said yes to everything and took projects and, stumbled along the way, but figured stuff out. And actually a couple months into running the blog, I had gotten an email from a literary agent, this woman named Catherine, and she was like, hey, I just stumbled across one of your images on Pinterest. I clicked back to your blog, and I didn't have a Pinterest. Someone else had pinned it for me, I guess, which is the beauty again of mass sharing on the internet. And I thought it was a scam at first. I was like, there's no way like a literary agent is interested. But I gave her a call and went in to go meet her at her office and realized it was legit. And she had this kind of game plan for me. And over the next 6 months, I was, finishing my senior year, like thesis portfolio in school, but also working on this proposal to send off to publishing houses. And she said there was no guarantee that it would get published. And I was like, that's totally fine. But she was a really big game changer. And every time I talk about this, I try to shout her out. Her name's Catherine. She's awesome. She really changed the way I looked at marketing a passion project because, like I said, I had put this thing out there that I had no plans for. It just had a life of its own. I stumbled across, a bit of good fortune. It was obviously a relatable project, but she was like, we need to build your audience more and get this passion project featured on as many blogs as possible and get testimonials and to really try to sell this into a book because, even if you have a ton of followers, you need to prove to an editor that people are excited about this and that they want to buy this book and, convince them why they should publish it.
That makes sense.
And it made so much sense. And so over the next 6 months, we, pitched the blog, manually, like it was me and her, like writing emails like, hey, my name's Lauren, like trying to pitch to as many like design websites, but also like general lifestyle websites as possible. And ended up getting a bunch of features and we added that to our list. And I think May 2013, sent off the proposal and heard back from 4 publishing houses and ended up signing a deal with Abrams, which is a really awesome publisher in New York City. And the same week that I graduated college and like got my diploma, I signed a book deal and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, that's wild. But it's not like shit was just handed to you because a lot of people see things as like overnight successes. Of course, she landed this. Her work was great, but in the beginning, I guarantee your work was trash with your initial daily dishonesty. Like mine was horrible. I can't even look back to my early Instagram days.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah. But you know what? I will say like, there is some nice, like naive charm to some of my old work that I try to tell myself that at least, but I do have those moments where I look back and just kind of like want to cringe. Like I can't believe that was a thing that I published, but I always have to I don't know if you ever do this, but I always have to remind myself to take my own goddamn advice. And basically, like I tell people, put your work out there. What's the worst that can happen? Yeah. It's never going to be perfect. You'll hate it in a year. And so I have to repeat that to myself sometimes.
And like, what's the best that can happen? And you'll get to the point where it's like, I know for me, I can't stand looking at the work I've done like 6 months ago. And in a way that's like a bad thing, but in a way it's really a good thing. So, it shows growth and improvement.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been talking with so many friends lately about these kind of dualities that I struggle with, where it's like you have to, there's that be kind to yourself, like you are exactly where you need to be, like you're doing your best, and then there's the other side of me that's like, always be improving, work harder, like go faster, bigger, like, never rest. And these two parts of me are two parts of how I think that are constantly competing with each other. And my business coach was talking to me the other day and she was like, you are the most driven, chill person that I've ever met. Like, how are you so mellow in real life, but you continue to, have this insane output of work and projects and, speaking and travel and all this stuff. And I was like, I don't know really where it comes from.
Yeah, I tend to be on the opposite side of the spectrum. I don't have that chill side in me, so it's usually just like pedal to the metal. So I'm trying to learn to pump the brakes. That's been really, really hard for me.
I mean, it is tough. I mean, I think the conversation, like the public conversation, has shifted a lot towards, self-care and mental health and making sure, work.
Hot yoga.
Yep. Like work is not everything. It's obviously, as designers, it's a big part of who we are. And, I feel very lucky that what I do for work is what I actually am passionate about too. But even when you're passionate about something, working for 12 or 14 hours a day is not easy on you.
Not at all. Not at all. You've clearly had a shit ton of success from side project to side project to side project. I'm talking about Daily Dishonesty, Will Letter for Lunch. Your latest one is Flower Crowns. That's hilarious. Has there ever been a project or something that didn't take off that, kind of taught you an invaluable skill or lesson? Because kind of it just seems like everything you touch is gold at the moment. But I mean, the show isn't just about the highlights.
Of course. It is funny because when I launched, it was Daily Dishonesty. I did Ex-Boyfriend Tears, which got featured a lot of places. Yeah. And then there was Will Letter for Lunch. I posted it on my personal Facebook, and one of my old classmates had commented, and she was like, "You have the Midas touch. Like, I don't understand how every project you've launched, has been so successful. Like, you must have hit the jackpot or something." And that streak lasted. And then I launched a project, I want to say late 2015. It was called 26 Letters, 26,000 Miles. And the backstory behind that was, mid 2015, I decided I had been freelancing for about a year and a half, and realized that what I did was location independent. And I was like, I want to travel. I may as well travel while I have this, remote job, and who knows how long it's going to last. And I'm young and I have energy, and I may as well, New York's always going to be here. I can come back if I want. And so I decided I wanted to travel, and I, had this brilliant idea. I was like, I should fundraise for my travels. I had saved up a bunch of money to travel, but I was like, no, I could turn this into a project. And so I decided to create this project called 26 Letters, 26,000 Miles, 26 letters being in the alphabet, 26,000 miles being roughly the circumference of the Earth. And I thought I was just a genius. But it turns out, so I made 9 posters, illustrating some of my favorite travel quotes and stuff that I had said, some quotes that I had found. And I launched this poster series, with the intention to raise money for my travels. And I was like, I'm going to raise $20,000. This is going to be amazing.
Shit, off some posters.
I know, right? Off of some posters. And, 6 months passed, and I probably raised $4,000 or $5,000, which is still good.
Yeah.
It's still good. And I was super happy, but I had set the bar so high in my mind, because I had had so much success with my other projects. And, if you looking back, when I really dissect what the project was, there wasn't anything mind blowing about it. It was really just turning a regular, I'm going to travel, I need some money kind of thing into a project. So with the skills that I had, honed from launching these other passion projects, I was able to package it up. But the, relatable, fun kind of nature of my work that had driven, Ex-Boyfriend Tears, Daily Dishonesty, Will Letter for Lunch wasn't quite there in that one. And in hindsight, I can totally see why it wasn't as successful as I thought it would be. But I always share this story because it wasn't, for nothing. I always tell people that even if you, like you said, what's the worst that can happen? Even if you start a passion project and you really enjoy working on it, at the very end of the day, the least that you have is an awesome portfolio piece. And so I put it in my portfolio. And over the next, I'd say, year or two, I have licensed a lot of that artwork to journals and planners and just other random things. So I have made a little bit more money off of it, but it really wasn't a gem the way that my other projects were. And I'm okay with that. I know that it's unrealistic to think that everything that I make is going to be as successful or more successful as the previous project. And that's something that I've been talking about with my friends a lot too, is that as a freelancer, when you set your own rules and, the playing field is it's like a wild card. Whereas when you're in a full-time job, you have a rough idea of general trajectory of your career. You're like, okay, in 5 years, I'll get X percent, salary raise, and I'll be at this position. And you kind of look around and see what everybody else is doing and picture yourself in that scenario. With freelance, you're just thrown into the wilderness. and you don't have much to compare it to because freelance salaries aren't published, and it's totally case by case. It's hard to find like the average, freelance salary.
Especially if you're doing multiple streams of revenue,
I ran into this problem too, where I kept thinking that, I have to make more money every year, or else I failed. And I understand now that that's not true. Ideally, yes, but also, you can't really beat yourself up for not besting yourself every year when it comes to money or followers or any of that notoriety.
Like putting the expectations to hit a home run every time you're up to bat, but hit that one a little bit longer than the first one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think if we're talking baseball, the most important thing is that you step up to the plate and keep taking your at-bats. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, the day you stop swinging, the day you damper that breakthrough to come your way or that home run that could land you a big project like yourself.
Yeah, totally. I was the last podcast I was on was Andy J. Pizza's podcast, Creative Pep Talk.
Oh yeah, he's my favorite.
Amazing. But he and I were kind of spitballing, and he used the same analogy but with a lottery ticket. He was
the creative lottery.
Every time you post your work is a new lottery ticket. You generate them for yourself, basically. And why wouldn't you put as many lottery tickets out there as possible? And I've always used the at-bat analogy.
Yeah, see, I'm a sports guy, so sports analogies always come natural to me.
I'm not even a sports person, but I did play softball all throughout middle school and high school, so the baseball thing does resonate with me.
Clearly, a lot of people know this, that you know how to get eyes on your work. And without giving away all your secrets, because I want to lead in talking about your passion to pay, what makes a good passion project, and what are a few tips for creating shareable work?
I had never thought of myself as being a good marketer because I think I was so in the advertising world that I just assumed that everyone kind of had a marketing brain. And, traditional advertising too never really resonated super deeply with me. You're selling products that sometimes you have no connection to. But what really did it for me, doing passion projects is I was like, okay, I'm the product now, and I can make, stuff that gets eyes on my work and the things that I'm passionate about, and, grow my audience and spread my message. I think that what makes a good passion project in my experience is it's something I like to call the group text test. And do you have I don't know if guys have this. Do you have a group text with all your buddies?
I mean, maybe a Slack here and there, but I've never been like that. No, small. I have a mastermind, but it's not just for boys.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's a Slack channel or a group text or something, an email thread with your friends. And what I like to tell people is that try to make stuff that you would be excited to share about in your group text. The stuff like a meme. A meme is a great example when you see something and you're like, oh my God, I got to text that to my friends. They're going to love it. And so that actually links to the other point I was going to make, where I've found a lot of success making really relatable work. And what I mean by that is I make work for me and my friends, my demographic. And so I've always said that if I make work for my target, for my demographic, then I am the marketer and the target audience. So I've already done the market testing because I know what my friends and I want. And I always tell people too that whatever you and your friends are geeking out about or laughing about or having deep conversations about, I guarantee you other pockets of people are talking about the same stuff. And even if, I can't relate to what you and your friends talk about, or you can't relate to what me and my friends talk about, it's all about finding your niche and finding your people online. And not everyone has to love your work. It's actually probably better if not everyone loves your work, because if everybody loves your work, it's probably pretty safe and pretty devoid of any real point of view. And so, yeah, my whole thing was infuse as much of my personality and experience into my own work. And I make projects about whatever is currently going on in my life. Daily Dishonesty is a great example of that. So is Ex-Boyfriend Tears. Ex-Boyfriend Tears never would have been created had I not gone through a pretty nasty breakup. And so, yeah, I think my best tip for people is to use their own experiences and channel that through whatever visual medium that they use or whatever their art form is to make a project that it's almost kind of like visual journaling, I guess. And I trust, and because I've seen it over and over again, I trust in the fact that other people are going through it too. It's got to be someone else out there.
What's funny is like, it was hard for me to, I thought I needed to have this filtered version of myself because I was afraid to offend people. Like I didn't even swear in my brand for probably the first year. And like, I had speeches and talks. Yeah.
That's so funny. Cause when I found you, everything was like, I feel like you were already swearing and I was like, oh, that's just like Scotty. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, no, at the beginning, I played it super safe. I was afraid to offend people, afraid to like turn people off from my work. And it was just bland. But then it was starting to embrace the weird things like pizza and cats, you know, the things I love the most in life, like that, and coffee and weird little things in my work. Those are the pieces that sold the most. Those are the pieces that got featured the most or attracted other people to do it. So when I initially found your work, that's what kind of attracted me, was that I felt like I was getting to know you in each one of your pieces. And I think a lot of people hold back showing them true selves in their work.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that too. And I definitely went through periods of that, especially, you know, trying to find, everyone's always like, how do I find my voice as an artist? And I usually just say like, well, you know, have you found your voice as a person? Like, who are you? I know that's like really, really deep.
It's like my therapist.
You know what's funny is that a lot of feedback that I've gotten on my Passion to Paid class, which is, I know we'll talk about that later, but is that a lot of the assignments, especially the brainstorming ones, are like mini therapy sessions. And like, I really do think that like when you get to know yourself and accept yourself for who you are and embrace your weird and, you know, celebrate yourself for that, as opposed to trying to sweep it under the rug to, you know, fit whatever mold you think your audience wants you to fit, that's when you really come into your full, you know, potential as an artist. And like I said, maybe like I curse too. I would say that because I didn't start out cursing, Daily Dishonesty was, I'd say PG. Sometimes you know, there would be like drinking in there, maybe PG-13, but there wasn't any need to curse with Daily Dishonesty. And then Ex-Boyfriend Tears was like a little snarkier, but still no cursing really. And same with We'll Let Her for Lunch, like restaurant menus. There's really no reason. Well, who knows? They could be a pretty like legit restaurant that wants to throw that into their branding.
There's like a restaurant called Dick's and they just like talk shit to everybody that comes in there. It's in like Texas.
Oh my gosh. I've heard about that, where they just try to make you feel bad, right?
Yeah, they make everybody wear paper bags on their head and they write like douchebag and stuff on it. I was too scared to do it because I didn't want my feelings to get hurt or to get in a fight. So
yeah, no, I don't think I would subject myself to that either, as confident as I may seem.
Well, basically it takes courage to let your freak flag fly, in a sense, you know, show you're weird. And that's been hard for me, is, you know, showing that side.
But have you found that the more authentic you are, and when you do talk about, you know, cats and pizza and poop jokes and you swear, like the people who don't vibe with that will flee, and that's fine. That's actually good. I actually tell all of my students that like, if you lose followers because of your passion project, but it's something you're really, really into, that's in the long run a good thing, because you're sifting out the people who really weren't your people to begin with. And so, you know, I was going to say, every time I, you know, curse in one of my posts, I'll get a couple people who will message me being like, you know, this is inappropriate, like I'm unfollowing. And in my head, I'm just like, okay, see ya. Like it's okay. You know, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. The world is a big place. The internet is a big place. You know, I hope you find your person who gives you beautiful lettering, you know, that is.
And doesn't swear.
G-rated. Yeah. And for every person who is, you know, who swears like a sailor, there's someone who doesn't. And it's okay. The cool thing about, you know, Instagram or social media, you know, especially when it comes to finding and following artists that you like, is there's a lot to choose from, and there's always new people to discover. And I've found a lot of success in being myself and trying not to care what everyone thinks, because to some extent we all care what people think.
We do.
It's true. But, you know, just like you said, waving your freak flag and seeing, you know, you hold your freak flag up and then you wave it, and then you see who else, you know, raises their hand and also has a freak flag.
Well, I went through a spell where like I didn't find my voice and I didn't know who I was, that deep shit. And I was creating work that I thought people wanted to see. And it wasn't shit that I was vibing to. And, you know, it just got me in a hole and I wouldn't get the engagement as I was hoping or expecting. And it wasn't until I started, you know, vibing to my work that resonated with me, because law of attraction, like attracts like, you're going to attract like-minded people over time. One person at a time attracts an audience. And, that's been the biggest thing I've learned over the last couple of years. So it wasn't easy for me. It seems like it just oozes from you, but it was hard for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one thing that, I wasn't really aware that I was doing it, but it has, like you said, oozed out of me, I guess. But one thing I will say about, you mentioned like pizza and cats and coffee, like what I really liked about your work when I found it was that
thank you
were combining them in like interesting ways. If you just make a post about pizza, that's cool. But when you have a pizza cat, that's automatically more interesting. And that's another, I guess, passion project tip is show people something they haven't seen before. And it is a little daunting of a, task, because I think, at least when I was starting out, especially in the advertising world, we would all agonize over this. You would have a brilliant idea for a campaign and then you'd Google it and realize it was already done. And that's super defeating. But as the internet has grown and more content has been put out there, like it seems like there's no such thing as an original idea anymore. But I keep telling people, like, there is, like, you've got one in you. You've got multiple, actually, like unique ideas that no one has ever made before. And you just have to, one, believe in that, and then two, like, dig deep and go for it. And even if your first 20 ideas, you Google them and they've already been done and like better than you would have done them, like, don't be discouraged, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, keep swinging.
Exactly. It really boils down to just like the keep swinging. Say, like, even if your first 20 at bats you strike out, it doesn't mean you can't get back up at the plate and try again. What if your 21st at bat was gonna be the home run and you didn't go to bat? Like, that's so painful to me.
Yeah, and I've had moments of where I wanted to stop swinging, so that's extremely encouraging, even for me, because I had the self-doubt all the time. So, it helps me with my own mantra and mottos.
Yep. Like I said, like, I always have to remind myself to take my own advice, because it's easy to spew out, but it's harder to actually put it into practice.
Well, by the time this comes out, your Passion to Paid course, round 3, is going to be in full swing. So for those of people in my audience who want a more hands-on experience in the future, when do you do the 4th round of it?
So Passion to Paid is relatively new. I launched it at the beginning of January 2017 with the intention of running it twice a year, like kind of on a 6-month schedule.
Summer, winter kind of thing?
Yeah, but it really, I didn't really set a schedule for myself. It's whenever I think I'm going to have like a nice 10 weeks to dedicate to running the class. So I'm hoping that the next round of Passion to Paid will be fall or winter 2018, I'm going to say. Last year I ran it twice, and this year I hope to run it twice, but we'll see. And for anyone who's listening who doesn't know what it is, it's basically like a 10-week passion project intensive. So everything that I've learned from, self-initiated projects, how to get them seen, how to like actually complete them, make them, package them up into a nice thing that people want to share. I basically turned that into a class because I was getting so many questions from people, and it's true. Like, I know so many people who make great work, like beautiful work, and it doesn't get, half of the recognition that I think it deserves. And that's where, like, at the very beginning of this conversation, we were talking about knowing how to sell your work and knowing how to get that work seen. And even just getting that work seen isn't enough sometimes. You still have to have a compelling, story and social media feed and about page on your website. And it's all these moving pieces that no one ever told me would go into running a freelance design business, that, I've learned from personal experience. So everything in the class I teach, like, from personal experience. And I find that, like you said, because my audience is very engaged with like my story, because I'm pretty much an open book, I find that that's the best teaching style I can offer, is to just speak from not really an authoritative standpoint, but just like, hey, like, if you got coffee with me and we're picking my brain, that's very much the style of the class. I have like 10 weeks of pre-recorded lessons, but then every Wednesday, what's kind of cool is I go live in the Facebook group and answer questions in real time. So I try to like make it feel like a classroom, even though obviously we're all just like in our living rooms.
And congrats to you. You still have 2 days left as we're recording this. We're in the past talking. But you have over 200 people that have signed up, and with a couple days left, and we all know how, campaigns and stuff work. People are going to sign up at the last minute, especially when you keep emailing them and things. But congratulations to you. That's incredible.
Thank you.
You've definitely hit the nerve on something that people need and want.
Well, that's the interesting thing is because when I was first brainstorming, the way I started Passion to Paid was I was traveling, and it was really good that I traveled because I met a lot of people who were outside of the design community in New York. I had such a little bubble in New York, which was awesome because we can all relate to each other. But I ended up meeting this marketing coach who's like my mentor now, and she, basically took one look at what I was doing and my social media, and she was like, do you sell any courses or do you have a digital product? And I was like, no, like, why would I need that? Like, I'm making money off of lettering work, and I have an agent, like everything's going fine.
She's pushing the passive income part on you. Yep.
Totally. And I didn't know. It just didn't occur to me to think that way because honestly, too, the narrative that I think a lot of us have been fed growing up too is that teachers don't make any money. Like teaching is not a lucrative thing. Mm-hmm. You do it because you love it, but even like college professors aren't some college professors aren't compensated that well. And I always thought that the only path for me was going to be getting hired by clients and getting paid for that work, and that was going to be it. And I ended up working with her and brainstorming like what could a class be? What do people want to know from me? And for anyone who's interested in starting a class, a great way to start is she had me go through every email that I had received in like the last 4 years, every Facebook message, Instagram message from a student or a fan, and we compiled a list of what people wanted to know from me. And a lot of it was lettering, but more of it was actually, how I got my work seen and how I put together these projects and more marketing focused. And so that's what we went with. And I am going to be coming out with a lettering class. I want to say June this year, I'm hoping, because I know that's like the second thing my audience wants from me. But I feel very lucky to have so much interest in Passion to Paid because had I started with a lettering course, I mean, who knows what would have happened? Maybe people would have still signed up, but I feel much more passionate about teaching people, like not just letterers, but everybody how to get their work seen because it's a really valuable skill and it served me well and it served my friends well. And I just want everybody to know.
You said something key there too. And I try to drive home with people that want to build an audience is listening, listen.
Absolutely.
Listen and deliver and focus on value.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just scream stuff out into the abyss if no one actually wants to hear it. And I think I was listening to one of Andy's podcasts where he had a really good analogy of like a hot dog salesman, I think.
Of course.
This guy goes out every day and like sells his hot dogs. He tries a megaphone and, selling his hot dogs. He tries, a jingle, a rhyme, like all this stuff. And, it turns out that the reason he's not selling any hot dogs is because he's in the middle of a forest and he's not like by like a stadium or like in the middle of a busy street. And what Andy was trying to say with that is that you have to, be in front of the right people and be marketing to the right people. If you're marketing, hot dogs to a forest full of squirrels, no one's going to bite.
Dude needs to sell nuts.
Exactly. You got to open a peanut cart. But yeah, it's all about, obviously making the work that you enjoy that shows off your interests and your personality, and a small group of people will flock to that and like be your whatever early adopters and like your core fans, and then you can build it out from there by like you said, listening, engaging, like what do you want to know from me, like, and
engaging. Yes,
absolutely. And one thing that you had mentioned before too was like making work that you thought people wanted to see and it wasn't getting the engagement that you'd hope for. That's one thing too that I realized, that when you make work that you think other people want to see and that you're not really into, but it's popular right now, so you should give it a try.
Trends.
And you put it out there and it doesn't, it's received with crickets. You feel extra bad because you didn't like it in the first place. Yep. And so at the very least, if you liked it, like the sassy and gassy thing that I drew, like I know that bathroom humor is not everyone's thing, but it's my thing. And, I put it out there and had I heard crickets to that, I don't really care because like I'm going to print that out and hang it in my house.
Well, and people resonate with it, clearly, my wife. So and it's one of those shareable things,
Yep, and it rhymes.
Yes.
Like we talked about.
Yes, I like wordplay. I like all of that. Okay, 2 quick questions before we go into rapid fire.
Cool.
So Yin Duan asks, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Yin. How do you say no like a pro? Because me, sometimes I tend to be Mr. Nice Guy. So I know you have an agent and people that help you out now, but before you landed that, was saying no a problem for you, or were you just had that backbone, or you could just say, nope, not interested?
Saying no was 100% a problem. And whenever I talk, it's always interesting to talk about this, because the reason I got my agent was because I don't like saying no. Like, I don't like to be the bad guy. I always worry that if I ever become a parent, like, I'm just going to be the cool mom who's like, yeah, do whatever you want. Like, that's not good. That's
totally going to be me.
Definitely not good. All right. You have a child on the way, right?
Yeah. Little pizza roll in the oven. Yep. August.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, I had no backbone. I would always say yes. I would always underprice myself before even negotiating, because you get in your head and you're like, oh, well, there's no way they would hire me for this, or like, I like a deal, so I should give them a deal. And you negotiate with yourself before you even negotiate with the client. And in hindsight, it's so silly. But I found myself playing that, game. And even when I learned how to say no and learned how to, price my work better, it was still really stressful for me and like anxiety inducing.
Especially with friends and family, because that's the hardest.
Mm-hmm. And because you're just an empathetic person, it's not a bad trait to have, but it doesn't really serve you well in business all the time. So I actually got an agent because I figured, like, what's that phrase? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Jill of all trades for you.
Jill,
yeah.
Yes, Jill of all trades. I figured that I should just, if what I really loved doing was the drawing and, making personal projects, then I should outsource the other part. So I found an agent, and I know that, it's not as easy as just like finding an agent. I was researching who was representing all of my favorite designers. I researched, how to reach out to an agent, like how do you pitch your work? Like what kind of samples are you supposed to attach? Like how do you follow up? All this stuff. And I tried a bunch of different things. I reached out to maybe 20 or 25 agents, heard back from 3, and set up meetings and decided to go with the guys that I'm with now. And I've been working with them ever since. And when I first told my parents that I got an agent, being frugal parents, they were like, that's so dumb. Like, why are you giving away, 25 or 30% of your income? Like, you got to keep that in the family. And I was telling them, though, like, my, mental clarity and free time is worth so much more than that. It's invaluable to me. And,
True.
Having an agent has been transformative in my business because, I can advise on pricing work. I know how to do it. I watch them do it too, and I've learned a lot from them. But if it's something that I really don't want to do and I can outsource that, and like I have the means to pay someone to do that, I'm going to do it, because I'd rather focus on a couple things that I'm good at and that I love than try to do everything. And I know that's not, finding an agent or getting help for your business isn't always an option for everybody right away. But I would say that if you, find yourself really dreading certain tasks, whether it's sending an invoice or administrative stuff or email, there are ways that you can get creative with your business and figure out how to just get yourself on the stuff that you love to do. So yes, I had a huge problem saying no at the very beginning, and it was really just baby steps. You get so busy at some point where you actually do have to say no. Like physically, you can't take on any more projects. And, I'm super nice about it too. I'm just like, I'm slammed right now. Like, reach back out in X amount of weeks. Or what I do now is I'm just like, I'd be happy to refer you to X, Y, and Z person. That's the best way to do it. Because then you generate some cool creative karma for yourself by referring other people for jobs.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who gets tripped up by pulling the trigger on a side project because they lack money, resources, time, or motivation?
I think one bit of advice that I would give, I actually wrote a blog post about all three of those things.
That's yep, this is where this comes from. I'll plug it in the show notes.
Oh, amazing. It's actually a really good blog post, and the photos in there are pretty funny. Those time, money, and motivation are the 3 things that have been roadblocks for me. And
that's the biggest question I get in my onboarding email. So that's what I tackle this question the most on each episode with the guests, because people need to see what each individual does. So I try to do the listening part. And then you just wrote a blog post on it, so it just fit perfect for what my audience needs.
That's amazing. I think that my tip would be, just from personal experience, it's one of those things that whenever I tell people my business model, it's like, whenever I do a passion project, I work on a passion project, it gets me more freelance work. And then I work on another passion project, it gets me more freelance work, grows my audience, all that good stuff. I'm always working. So it's this weird, like, do work to get work kind of cycle. And I think that my main motivation for starting a passion project, and what I would hope that other people can see can come from a passion project, is that it's kind of this, like, the first thing that this is such a bad, like, metaphor. I was going to say it's like a 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner. What I'm trying to say is it does multiple things at once. Like, when you work on a passion project, you build your portfolio, you get one step closer to finding your voice and establishing yourself as an artist. You generate more social content to put out there. Again, it's that at bat when you're trying to build your career. You find like-minded people. There's just so many, like, wins. And so I think my advice is, if you're feeling like, time, money, or motivation is scarce, in my life, at least this has been true for me, there's always one of those areas that isn't as scarce as I'm convincing myself that it is. So, for example, when I was a student, I didn't have any money, but I had a ton of time, in between classes and stuff. Or when I was working full time, I worked on Daily Dishonesty when I was a junior at an ad agency, and, working 55 hours a week and still trying to work on this project. I had money then, but I didn't have any time. And so I would take advantage of, 15 or 20 minutes between meetings, or when I was
those little pockets of time in the day.
Pockets of time. And that's been a big thing for me is, what I recommend, especially on the time front, is break up your task into, 15 to 20 minute bite-sized tasks. So, for example, with Daily Dishonesty, on the train ride to work, it was too shaky to draw. So I probably had a 30-minute commute. I would just brainstorm new daily dishonesties. I'd write them down in my journal or on my phone. And then when I got to work, in between meetings, again, those 15 to 20 minute pockets, I would sketch out compositions for them. And then, maybe during my lunch break, I would, ink them or something. Or I just found I took advantage of whatever little pockets of time that I did have, even if I didn't have a full day. My friend Amy Tan in the blog post has a really great quote from her book, Craft a Life You Love, where she talks about 15 minutes a day for a whole month equals one full work day. That's 1 8-hour day.
That's gold. That's awesome.
Everyone's got 15 minutes a day. Like, I would think that everyone has 15 minutes a day. I don't know anyone's life. But I think that would be my advice, is that, really do a little reflecting, and you'll see, or digging, and you'll see that you do have a little more time than you thought you had. And with the money part, you don't need a lot of money to start a passion project. I started Daily Dishonesty with $10. All I did was buy the URL for Daily Dishonesty. Tumblr is free to start a blog. I had, just whatever I had in my dorm room to draw with. And it really doesn't have to be an expensive thing. It can really just be like, doodles on a napkin, where you just take a picture of that and post that. The production value is not as important as, the idea or the content that you're putting out. And so I think I would recommend that people just take the pressure off of themselves a little bit to, don't compare yourself to your favorite artist who's been doing this for 5 or 10 years professionally. You might be a student, or you might be, transitioning careers, or just starting out. Where you are and whatever skills you have, use that, get resourceful. Whatever you have with you is what you're going to use to start your passion project, and work around those constraints.
It's too easy to compare your beginning to someone else's middle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is that when we follow people, I'm going to use Instagram as an example, you follow people whose work you admire. Very rarely do we follow people whose work we don't admire, right? Because we're all trying to curate what's coming up in our feed. And so what I have to remind myself and my students of is that you're inundated with images of people's work who you think is better than yours constantly, 24/7. And it makes you feel really bad about yourself. And it's not giving you a full picture of what's actually going on in the world. For every person that you lust after their work, and you're like, I'm never going to be that good, like, I suck, there is someone who would look at your work and be like, oh my gosh, how do I get to where they are? So we're all just on this, cycle of looking up to people and not realizing that we've actually come quite far, comparatively.
And at the same time, you have someone looking up, wishing that they had the audience that you had. So it's a crazy circle.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I think that'd be my long-winded advice.
Hey, perfect. Let's go into overtime right now. Thank you for all your time today. So rapid fire questions. I didn't mention this earlier. I wanted to talk about it. So real quick, what is homework?
Ooh, so homework is this fun little thing I started on a whim at the beginning of the year. Every week I publish, so every Friday at 7 a.m., 7 a.m. Eastern time, I send out an email with a creative brief for the week. And I had seen some lettering challenges around the internet, but they were a little bit one-dimensional. So, the theme for the week would be yellow or plants. And it was just a little bit too vague for me. So I decided to create my own. And so I give you a creative prompt every Friday, and it has to tie in with a lesson that I've learned or some kind of personal story. And lately I've been featuring a lot of my creative friends. And I believe by the time this podcast comes out, or right before this, after this podcast comes out, you will be my guest artist. And I'm so excited to have you. Thank you.
Shit, yeah. Got something special up my sleeves for that. So thank you.
Yeah. So it's really just, if I found a lot of my followers and my students were stuck on, they wanted to create, but they didn't know what to create. And that was the barrier of entry for just getting started. So I figured I would help. And so I've actually found it really helpful when I get some constraints from a client or a creative director or something where they're like, okay, we need this done in this way around this theme. So that's what I try to do for everybody, where I send out, here's the theme. I want you to create artwork around it, and this is why it's important.
How can people sign up to get involved?
People can sign up. There's a link in my Instagram profile. You can probably link it in the show notes here, but it's really just a mailing list that you sign up for, and you just check the homework box. And every Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, without fail, it'll be there. And a big question I've been getting lately is how long is it going to go on for? Because I had no idea it was going to blow up the way it did. I was like, oh, maybe I'll do it for a couple weeks. And, a couple weeks went by and they were like 5,000 submissions and then 10,000. And now there's like 20,000.
It's wild.
And it's so cool to see people, actually checking out the hashtag. And I know I got really lucky with my last name. Although I guess everything fell into place. I'm just a naturally wordplay person. So I got the last name that I did, and I've been really enjoying, it's like a little community that we've formed. So that's what homework is. You can sign up just with the link in my Instagram profile or in the show notes here.
All right. Well, if you were on death row, what would your last slice of pizza be?
My last slice of pizza would probably, that's a tough one because it's the very last one. So I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I grew up in California eating a ton of Hawaiian pizza. So that's pineapple for those of you who aren't familiar. I know that's sacrilege when it comes to pizza. I don't know if that would be my last slice. I do enjoy that, I will say. Sorry. I think I would have to just go classic, just plain cheese.
Plain cheese.
I'm vegetarian, so my pizza toppings tend to be a little bit limited. I do like veggies, but whenever I do end up getting pizza, it's either just cheese or I love jalapenos on my pizza. I'm a spice fiend, so probably one of those.
Hot Cheetos. I get it.
I actually think I would forego pizza for just a tub of hot Cheetos.
Okay, we can have an audible here, so that works.
Okay, cool.
All right. Leah Chong asks, what's your favorite type of bread after your Flower Crown series?
Oh my goodness. So my favorite type of bread, probably croissants. It's just, my mom used to, I don't know if anyone grew up eating Costco food, but I did. And my mom used to buy these 12 packs of butter croissants from Costco, and they're the size of your face. They're huge. And I grew up just snacking on those. And as a result, got very chubby as a kid, but they were delicious. And I still get really nostalgic every time I eat a croissant. So
I was the chunky fat kid growing up too, so I get it.
I think it builds character. I always say that I think everyone should have to be fat at one point in their life and work a food service job because it's really humbling. They're both very humbling experiences.
I've done both. Yes.
Me too.
Oh, that's funny. All right. If you were stranded on an island, this is the first time I've used this one. My wife helped me think of this morning. If you were stranded on an island with only 3 possessions, what would they be?
Am I allowed to say speedboat?
Nothing that'll help you get off the island. It can be art supplies too, so.
Oh, okay, cool. I think I would want, this is going to be a nerdy answer, but I'd want a lot of sunscreen because I'm a big sunscreener. It was just, now that I have tattoos too, I'm just vigilant about the sunscreen.
Yeah, fade 'em.
It's a thing. I would definitely want you know what though? I was going to say, I can get pretty creative when it comes to like finding a medium to draw on. So like if I had no paper or pens, I would just use like a stick and like the sand and then become like a sand letterer or something.
I was going to say, what font or typeface would you use to write SOS or help?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? I would say I'm going to get practical here. My survival skills are kicking in. I would actually use a really like chunky sans serif like typeface because it'd be the most legible. Like imagine writing SOS in like a beautiful Spencerian script, but like they didn't understand what it meant.
Yeah, see, you would have like some kind of extrusions and perspective on it and some floral elements around it as well.
Maybe like a lot of like kind of like lines, like arrows pointing towards it, flourishes that actually got their attention.
Save me.
Save me, please. I think so. Yeah, sunscreen. I think drawing materials would definitely be good. I would actually like, even if it wasn't a sketchbook, I would like paper to write my thoughts down on. I'm a big like note taker. Like I don't really keep a journal, but I have on my notepad in my phone just so many random bits and thoughts. And then maybe like an emergency pack of Flaming Hot Cheetos. But that's really it. It's boring answers. I know that I can't say speedboat or the internet or like.
Hey, it works. How do you unplug from work to recharge the creative juices? Do you ever turn the switch off? Because it doesn't seem like it. I struggle with it.
Well, so that's the thing. Like I said, when I do personal projects, I end up getting more professional work. What I do to unwind is work on passion projects because they're like my little creative babies and I'm the creative director and the client and it feels really good. And that's where I get my thrills from, I think. So to unwind, I get off the computer and work on a passion project. So a lot of my passion projects, I think after Daily Dishonesty, we're actually very not very digital oriented. Like Daily Dishonesty was done by hand, but then rendered digitally. Flower Crowns is all hands off. And yeah, I think I just step away from the computer, but I still do work. I draw to relax.
Same here.
It's so therapeutic to like drag a pencil across a piece of paper. It's so weird, but
it's always been an escape.
Yep. Totally agree.
What's coming up that we should look forward to?
Ooh, what's coming up? I think I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to be launching a lettering workshop online in June. So that's pretty exciting for anyone who can't be in any of the cities that I go to for workshops. I'm trying to think of my travel schedule. The episode will already be out, but I'm going to Toronto for the first time for the next 2 weeks.
So how was Toronto by the time this episode came out? How was it?
I think it was great. I spoke at FITC, this conference in Toronto. I met some cool people, ate some good food. It wasn't that cold. But then I'm going to be going and speaking at TypeCon in Portland in August. So that's really exciting. So if anyone wants to get their TypeCon tickets and meet me in Portland, I will be there and it's going to be super fun. I'm super honored to be speaking alongside Louise Feely and Nina Stossinger, who are like prolific female type designers. So very honored.
It's funny you still get like star-studded too.
Oh my gosh, we all do it. Like whenever anyone messages me and they're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe you wrote back, like fangirling right now. I'm like, girl, like I fangirl out over so many other people. Like,
good, you make me feel human. Perfect. And also when your lettering course and stuff comes out, you'll announce it, but I'll happily plug it here because I like to plug things on the show for friends. So you'll announce dates on your Instagram and all that good stuff,
yes.
Right? Okay, I'll reshare. Where can people go to find you online?
People can find me Instagram.com/homsweethom or just homsweethom.com. I got lucky with my last name, so luckily I have a pretty sticky business name. And I always say it's like, oh, it's Hom Sweet Hom. It's like home sweet home without the E's. And then some people are like, so it's home SWT.
Yes, oh my God, that's immediately what I thought of. That's hilarious.
I know, it's so silly. It's like so silly, but no, it's Hom Sweet Hom. So that's where you can find me mostly on the internet.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you got a crazy schedule. Passion to Paid gets started here soon. You got a million stories to keep up with. You got homework and everything going on in life. So we all appreciate you taking the time to drop a shit ton of value on us today, and we sincerely appreciate you.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here. Thank you for reaching out. I'm glad that you finally did. I am a busy gal, but try to make time.
All right. Well, I appreciate you. Have a good one. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, Scotty.
Bye. Hot damn. Lauren Hom, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. So Lauren's been a huge inspiration to me over the years, and you better believe I've been studying her tactical approach to sharing and marketing herself and her work. And it's been an absolute pleasure getting the chance to have her on the show. And judging by the responses I had when I announced our recording, I have no doubt this will be a listener favorite. So if you struggle making time to work on your side project, or maybe you lack the ideas of where to even start, I highly recommend you read her You Don't Need Much to Make Magic blog post and sign up for her weekly prompts with her homework series. And make sure you participate in mine this week, as I got a pretty fun one that will be announced tomorrow. You can also sign up to be on her winter waitlist for her next Passion to Paige series. Everything you need to get linked up with everything listed is in the show notes at perspective-collective.com/75. Thank you, Lauren. You rock. So this week's dose of inspiration goes to my homie Ray Moust, and that's Ray, MAWST on Instagram. And over the years, I watched Ray slowly build a name for himself with his lettering, calligraphy, sign painting, and vectoring game. He's a quirky dude with some killer dance moves, and I personally feel he's a must follow, as he shares a ton of videos where you can get a view into his process. And I highly recommend his 36 days of type from last year and the current process ones that he's working on now. If you're looking for accountability, community, a place to share your work, give and receive solid feedback, and to get access to resources that'll elevate your creative game, then I encourage you to check out the Perspective Collective Facebook group. So right now we have a thriving community, and we would love to have you be a part of the family. So hop on Facebook and search for the Perspective-Collective to get involved with some rad people and just build your skills and take your business and creative brand to the next level. And if you're enjoying what you hear today and you want to support the growth of the show, I have a few ways you can make that happen. The first is by becoming a backer at patreon.com/perspectivepodcast. Not only can you donate per episode with as little as much as your weekly cup of coffee, but I do my best to hook you back up with some rewards, so really it's a win-win. The second way you can support the show is for you crypto heads out there. In the show notes for each episode, I'll have addresses for Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin donations if you prefer to go that route. And finally, you can leave a ratings and review over on iTunes, and not only helps the show get discovered, but it gives me an opportunity to give you, the listener, a nice little thank you plug like this week's rating and review. And this one comes from Josh at That Fried Design Co. And Josh titled this one, What I Needed to Hear, and he states, at the time of writing this, I'm finally putting the final touches to my contract with a big client that will set me up moving on with my full-time creative freelance dream. I can honestly say that listening to this podcast gave me the final confidence nudge that I needed to take that step and stop making excuses. Of course, I had to take the time to set things up, but I kept stalling, thinking it wasn't the right time when it was. Scotty's interview style is laid back and conversational, but he still asks all the right questions you want to know from the heavy hitters he's talking to. He talks about the work, talks about the marketing yourself, and engaging with the community. You might also get a low-key hip-hop reference and some new pizza combo ideas. 10 out of 10, would rate again, it's tight. Yo, thanks so much, Josh. It's been nice getting to know you over the last couple of months, too, and having these little micro interactions with you. I sincerely appreciate you, homie. And as I wrap things up, I want to give a huge thank you to Áine, Brennan, for making this episode sound so good. And a huge thanks to my homie Nick Jenkins for all the dope theme music you hear on the show. Check him out at SoundCloud or on Instagram at Blookah. That's BLOOKAH. And as you finish off your week strong, I want to encourage you to keep showing up, keep putting in the work, and keep creating. You got this.